How's it going, guys? Semper Cogiter here, coming at you with 10 questions for atheists, answered by, of course, me, Semper Cogiter. So this is something I've wanted to do for a while, and I just kind of found these 10 questions on the internet. I didn't really get asked these per se. I just kind of picked them off the internet, off some website. I'll link it below in the description. Some other guy answered them in the website, but I will be answering these questions with my own words and with my own viewpoints. So let's get right into it here. So starting with number one, we got, how did you become an atheist? Well, I don't know, it's a bit of an interesting question, I guess. It didn't happen overnight, that's for sure. It definitely took a very long time for me. Basically, when I was a small child, I never really, like, my parents never really took me to church per se. I mean, we weren't particularly religious and they didn't force me to go to church, but they weren't atheists by any means. They just let me do my own thing and have my own ideas, I guess, and said if I wanted to go to church, I could. All I had to do was let them know, or if not, then I wouldn't have to go to church. So for the most part, I never really actually went to church as a kid, but I did go to the Wednesday night youth group meetings with a friend of mine who went to the local Baptist church in my hometown. So I went to that every night with him when I was about, I'd say, 7th grade all the way up until I graduated high school. And I always found that little Wednesday night thing rather interesting. I thought the youth pastor was really cool. Still do. I think he's a phenomenal person. But when I was going to those, the youth pastor would be talking about things, and I would always have just millions of questions for him. I'd ask him in private or during the youth group meetings. All the different questions I'd have, and he'd give me. I'm not trying to slander him. Like I said, I think he's a great guy, but he'd always give me these kind of half-ass, religious responses that didn't really answer my question, or it just left me with even more answers. So it led me to, when I was pretty much all throughout my life, basically starting, I'd say when I got to about sophomore in high school, that's when I really started to think about this topic more, about religion and what it actually means, and if there is actually a god or anything like that. I'd say sophomore year is about when I actually started asking these questions. After I started asking my youth pastor all these questions, and he didn't really give me responses that I felt were satisfactory, I began to look on the internet more and more. And as I grew up, I left high school and I joined the Marine Corps. And my roommate, while I was in Okinawa, he was just super religious, just ridiculously religious. I'm not saying that to knock him. He's my best friend ever, but he was super, super religious. And I'd ask him all the same questions, and he'd, give me the same kind of bullshit answers. Not really bullshit, but, just like the typical religious answers, God works in mysterious ways on all that crap. Or he'd give me an answer where it would just lead me to more questions, and I would find myself just looking on the internet for anything I can find. I'd be typing in on YouTube, listening to debates between like a pastor and a person like Christopher Hitchens or Matt Dillahunty or something like that. And I'd read posts on the internet, like forum articles and stuff like that on the topic, and eventually, just throughout the course of a few years, I'd say maybe about 2 years ago is when I finally decided, hey, I'm going to full on say I'm an atheist from here on out, because I just couldn't find any logical argument for the existence of a god. So that's, in a nutshell, kind of how it happened. It was a very, very long process. I mean, I'm talking like around 8 years. So. All right, on to the next one. So number 2 is, what happens when we die? That's a very interesting question. And the easiest way I can answer that is I have no fucking idea. I know that is a bit of a cop-out answer, so let me explain. I don't claim to know what happens when we die. Like, religious people will claim all these things, like you'll go to heaven or hell, and they'll say, when you're in hell, you'll burn for all of eternity, you'll suffer for all of eternity, and when you're in heaven, you'll get to do all these awesome things. But I mean, there's just no substantial evidence for that. So I honestly have no idea what happens when we die. I'm what my theory would be is just, what do you remember before you were born? I'm going to guess nothing, so that would be what it will be like when you die. You won't even know it happened because you don't exist anymore. You don't have any more consciousness, so I mean, you won't have to worry about it. Like, you weren't before you were born, you weren't sitting around there in the darkness thinking, "Damn, I wish I had a life." Like, no, you didn't have a consciousness, so you didn't care. So that would be the closest thing that I can explain to you how it will be like when we die. You won't even know you're dead, basically. Like, it won't matter to you because you'll just be you'll cease to exist. You'll be nothing. So there will be nothing. It'll just be nothing for eternity. But at the same time, I know that sounds scary, but you won't know it's happening. Like I said, you won't have a consciousness anymore, so you won't even know it happened. So it's nothing to be afraid of. You'll just cease to exist. All right, let's move on to the next one. So number 3 is, what if you're wrong and there is a heaven? Well, I mean, I guess I'm fucked. I mean, I don't see how this. Every Christian always asks this question. Oh, what if you're wrong? Like, I mean, if I'm wrong and I die, then I guess I'm fucked. Like, what do you want me to say? I mean, there's not a whole lot I can say. I guess I'm going to have to take my punishment, or maybe God will decide that I lived a good life and he'll let me into heaven anyway, even though I didn't necessarily believe in him. But I don't know, if I'm wrong and there is a heaven, and before I get to go to hell, if I get to ask God any questions before I go down there, I guess I would just ask him, where I went wrong in my line of thinking, what choices did I make in my life that led me down the wrong path, and how could have I fixed those choices, or what should I have been looking at that I wasn't? I mean, I wouldn't have to explain myself to the God because, he already knows. He knows me probably better than I know myself, so I wouldn't have to explain anything to him. So I would just want to know where I went wrong, and why, if I was struggling so much, why he never showed himself to me. I mean, if he's an all-knowing God, then he knows exactly what it would take to prove to me his existence, and I would just want to know why he never did that. Because clearly, if I die and I still don't believe in him, then he didn't do everything he could to make sure that I believe in him. So I would just want to know why he never went the extra mile to try to make me believe in him, or at least show me that he exists. So I guess those would be the questions I'd ask, if I could ask any questions. If not, then I guess I'd just take my punishment and quietly go on down to hell and suffer with the rest of the heathens. I mean, there's not a whole lot I can do, so. All right, let's move on. So number 4 is, without a God, where do you get your morality from? I really hate this question. It's always the question Christians ask, and it's like their gotcha question, or it's one of their gotcha questions. Is like, oh, without a God, how can you have morality? So where I get my morality from is from the society in which I live. There's no such thing as a moral objective truth. There's nothing that is set in stone as this is moral and this is not moral. We derive our moralities entirely from the society we find ourselves in. You can look back through all of human history and see that this is the case. I mean, there's countless things that people used to do back in the day that today we would consider immoral, but to them it was, just another average Friday. We completely and utterly derive our morality from the society in which we live. There is no such thing as a moral objective truth. It is completely subjective, based on who you live around and the influences you had in your life. Nothing is set in stone as good and bad. I mean, even something like murder isn't necessarily a evil thing all the time. Like, if I just went down the street and I, killed the first person that I saw, obviously that would be immoral. because it doesn't benefit the collective society at all. In fact, it hurts it, because I just took a productive member of the society's life. So I would in fact be hurting it, and that is what society deems as immoral. If you hurt the society in any way, that is what is immoral. But if somebody was holding a gun to my mother's head and I came in and shot that guy dead, that would not be considered immoral, because I was protecting my family, I was protecting my inner society. I wasn't necessarily thinking of the greater society as a whole. I was more protecting my own inner circle, my own inner society. So that is why that form of murder would be considered moral. Whereas if I just went down the street and killed, Jimmy walking down the street for no apparent reason, that would be considered immoral. Like I said, everything has... It's all about if you can justify it, I guess. If you can justify it in a good way, then it would be considered moral. But if you cannot, if it has no justification to it, then that is what would be considered immoral. But there is no objective morality. It is all completely and utterly subjective to the society in which you live in. All right, let's go on to number 5, I think. So the next one is, if there is no God, can we do what we want? Are we free to murder and rape while good deeds are unrewarded? So what I have to say to this, I mean, I basically explained the whole thing in the last question. They're just repeating it here, I guess. If the only thing that is keeping you from murdering and raping everyone you see is a God, then you are not a very moral person, are you? Like, you're a pretty shitty person if the only thing that is holding you back from killing everyone you see and raping every person that you see, if the only thing that's holding you back from doing that is a God, then you are a awful, awful human being. I mean, it's just ridiculous. This question is completely and utterly ridiculous. No, you are not free to go around and murder and rape everyone you see. You know why? Because the society in which you live in will punish you for those deeds. You will spend years of your life in jail. You might even have your own life taken from you, depending on how serious the circumstances were. Like if you killed a bunch of people and you get put on death row. I guess if you're I guess not all states have death row. You have to be in a certain state, I guess, to get the death penalty. But society will punish you. You cannot go around and do whatever you want, because society will deem if your actions are moral or immoral, which is what I said. You get your morals from the society. There's no objective morality. It is completely dependent on the society you live in. If you lived in a society where rape and murder were not considered immoral, then I guess sure, you could go around and rape and murder people, but there's, to my knowledge, no society in which that is the case, because rape and murder do not benefit the collective society in any way, so they are deemed immoral. While good deeds go unrewarded, I mean, good deeds are rewarded all the time, man. Have you not seen people get, medals, or like Ellen? If you watch Ellen, she's giving out money to people who do good shit all the time. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things you can go ahead and search on Google if you want to, for people doing something good for somebody and then they get rewarded for it. You don't need you don't need some reward after you die to have all of your good deeds be justified. Society will reward you if you do something spectacular, and if you do something spectacularly bad, they will punish you accordingly. All right, on to the next one. If there's no God, how does your life have any meaning? Again, if the only thing that means anything to you in your life is worshiping some invisible man in the sky that you have no real idea if he exists or not, then your life is, I'm sorry to say, it's pretty pathetic. I mean, like, if that's the only thing that gives you any meaning in your life, then you live a very, very sad life. Life is, the meaning to life is whatever you want it to mean. If the meaning to your life is providing food for your family, making sure your kids grow up in a safe environment, a safe, productive environment, teaching them the ways of the world and ensuring that they go on to do great or good and better things, then that's what the meaning to your life is. If the meaning to your life is, playing video games and talking about video games all day, then that's what the meaning to your life is. If the meaning to your life is working out all day, every day, and making sure that your body is as healthy as it can be, then that's the meaning to your life. It's, at the risk of sounding like a hippie, life is whatever you want it to mean, man. I wouldn't say that there's no meaning to life that's bad, that's necessarily bad. Like, if the meaning to your life is to kill everybody, then your meaning to life is pretty shitty, but there's no real, like, overarching meaning to life that needs to be applied to everybody. The meaning to your life should be completely unique to you and the things that you want to achieve in your life. There doesn't need to be a God to give your life meaning, and if you think that, then again, you live a pretty sad life. All right, on to the next one. Where did the universe come from? So I made a video explaining how I thought the universe came into existence. My video on Can Something Come From Nothing, I go into this in way more detail, so I'm not gonna bore you too much with the semantics of that video. If you're really interested in it, you can go watch that video. I explain it in a little bit better detail, but I believe that the universe could have came to existence from nothing, simply because if there's truly nothing around before the universe came into existence, then that would mean that no laws were governing the nothing, because even a law would constitute as something of which nothing can exist because there's nothing. So I know that's very confusing, but nothing was around. Like, nothing you can possibly think of was around before the universe, up to and including all the laws of the universe. So if there's no laws governing the nothing, then what is to stop that nothing from creating everything that we know today? That's the basic gist of it. I think the universe came into existence from nothing. If you want me to go into more detail, I made a whole video about this, so you can go watch that. It's entitled, Can Something Come From Nothing? The Age-Old Question. So I go into it in a lot more depth in that video, but that was just the Cliff Notes version. I think the universe came from nothing. On to the next one. What about miracles? What of all the people who claim to have a connection with Jesus, what about those who claim to have seen saints or angels? So the first one, what about miracles? I mean, what about them? I don't think much about miracles, because most of the miracles that occurred in the Bible or are written about in the Bible, either they happened with only one person there to witness it, so we're just supposed to take his word for it, or it's something like some dude changing water into wine, which is something that an illusionist could do on a stage like tomorrow if he really wanted to. So I think the miracles that appear in the Bible are easily explained. They're just accounts of people who didn't know what they were seeing, so they described it as a miracle. And that's what I think it is. It's just basically just illusions. So I don't think miracles actually exist. And then the second part to the question, what of all the people who claim to have a connection with Jesus? I think they think that they have a connection with Jesus, but I think it's just them misinterpreting a feeling in their body. I'm not saying that feeling isn't powerful and it doesn't impact them, but it is still just it's a phantom feeling, I guess. Like, they feel it, but it's not actually there. It's like the placebo effect, I guess. They want to feel it, so they feel it. I don't think they're actually feeling anything. I've never experienced this feeling that they talk about. Like, it's never happened to me. So, and trust me, I've tried many, many times. It just never happened. So I don't think they're actually feeling anything. I think it's just like a placebo effect. And then the third part to this question, what about those who claim to have seen saints or angels? I'm guessing they mean like when they die, that the person, they saw something, they saw, heaven with all the saints and the angels, and then they got resurrected and they came back to life. But what about all the people who died and when they got resurrected, they didn't see anything? What about all those people? I mean, those people who died and claimed to have seen all these fantastic things, I mean, they're probably either A, they're just seeing shit, or B, they're just claiming to have seen it. and they didn't actually see anything. They just want the attention. I don't think they actually saw anything, or if they did, it was just like a dream. Like it wasn't actually real. Like I said, there are plenty of people who have died and come back to life, and they didn't see jack shit. So it's not in any way, it doesn't in any way prove that God exists. Like if there really was something after we die, then and these people who have died and got brought back to life and they saw something, you would think that everyone who dies and got brought back to life would have, had a similar experience or at least saw something. But there are plenty of people who have been clinically dead, resurrected, and claim to have seen nothing. And I actually know somebody who died and then got brought back to life, and they claim that they didn't see a damn thing. So I don't think anything of those people. All right, on to the next question. What's your view of Dawkins, Hitchens, and Harris? I think they're all phenomenal people. I think they're all very, very intelligent and just phenomenal to listen to. I think they're just some of the smartest people ever. Especially, I really like Christopher Hitchens. He is a phenomenal speaker. I love listening to him. I'm very sad that he passed away. Rest in peace. But yeah, I think they're all phenomenally smart people, and they're far more qualified to talk about this shit than I am. All right, on to the next one. If there is no God, then why does every society have a religion? So I think the reason why every society has some form of a religion is, religion is just a way for people to explain things that they cannot explain. If you look back in the way early history, like the Romans, they had like a sun god, they had a god of war, they had, a god for the moon, they had a god for the sea, they had a god for the sky. They had all these gods to explain things that they didn't know how those things worked. They didn't have an explanation for, why the tides come in and why they go out, why the sun is doing what it is, why it rises and sets. So they made all these gods and all these stories to explain all these things. And gradually over the years, as we progressed and we were able to answer those questions, you saw all those gods, drop off until eventually we got to where we are now, where there's just a image of just one God, and he is in control of everything. And people use him to explain things that we cannot explain, like what happens to us after we die. We have no idea, and we never will know. So people want that comfort buffer. They want the when I die, it's not just going to be infinite nothing. It's going to be, I'm going to go to heaven and I'm going to reunite with all my dead relatives and friends, and it's going to be great. We're all going to go chill in heaven. So they just want that comfort. They're afraid of the unknown, so they have to create an idea of something to explain away the things that they cannot explain, because they're not comfortable with not knowing something. I think that's the main reason why religion is a thing. And then secondary, I think religion is just a very complex and intricate way of controlling a mass number of people to follow a set of rules. I believe that's the second main reason why religions are a thing in every major society. All right, guys, that was 10 questions for atheists answered by myself, Semper Cogiter. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, if you want to leave a like or subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate that. If you didn't like it, if you want to leave a dislike, by all means, leave a dislike. And regardless of if you liked it or not, please leave a comment and let me know what you guys think. If you thought that I had a good point on anything, or if you disagree with me on anything, comment below and let me know what you guys think. I'd love to have a debate with you guys in the comment section. I'll keep it civil, don't worry. Unless you're being a prick, then I'll be a prick too. But I won't berate you or anything. I don't care if you believe it. If you're a religious person, if you believe in God, I don't care. You do what you want. I'm not going to look down on you for it. But if you want to have a debate, by all means, I will have a debate with you in the comment section. But other than that, just let me know what you guys think. Like I said, I'd greatly appreciate it. And yeah, thanks for watching the video, guys. And I hope to catch you in the next one. But the first to go, hardcore is the only way I know. I'll feed on the fear of the devil inside of the enemy faces in my sight. Aim with a hand, shoot with a mind, kill with a heart.
like Arctic ice.